Hello and welcome to the fifth episode of our webinar series, the Cloud Pragmatist. The series is designed for cloud networking and security professionals. We all know that the cloud is transforming businesses across the world, but the cloud itself is going through its own transformation and is obviously evolving at a rapid pace. Our goal in this series is to keep you up to date on cloud networking and security trends, challenges, and solutions that will help you on your cloud journey. I'm your host, Abhishek Bhatt. I'm the Vice President of Advanced Cloud Services at Aviatrix. And I'm excited to welcome Yusuf Mayat. He's joining us today to share his experiences from a Cummins perspective. Yusuf is a global service owner for wide area networks at Cummins and is a Aviatrix customer. Welcome, Yusuf, to the webinar.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you, Abhishek.
Great to have you, Yusuf. So as you all know, Cummins is a multinational corporation that designs, manufactures, and distributes engines, filtrations, and power generation products, right? Yusuf has his expertise in IT, architectures, processes, has had a long storied career over 20 years, led Cummins IT in Africa and has now taken a global role. So to kick things off, a quick introduction on what we are going to focus on today's webinar. The topic for today is navigating the cloud networking skills gap while keeping business transformation initiatives on track. The mass migration of enterprises to the cloud has obviously created this huge demand for skilled cloud networking professionals. And the result is a critical skills shortage for enterprises attempting to design and implement their cloud networks. So first, we'll talk about Cummins' cloud journey. Yusuf will share what has driven Cummins to the cloud. There are some details about the cloud footprint, where they are in this journey, and some of the challenges faced. Then we'll dive into specific examples of how Aviatrix Services has helped Cummins in this journey, how Cummins has leveraged the skill sets offered by Aviatrix Services to accelerate their journey into the cloud. And one quick note, housekeeping note before we get into the discussion is, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the Q&A, the Zoom Q&A. There's a tab, and we'll answer those questions either live or take them towards the end of the webinar. All right, so let's get into the meat. In talking to customers, we find the driver to cloud, and in particular, the inevitable transition to multi-cloud is primarily driven by the business, right? This is apps, teams leveraging differentiated capabilities that each CSP has to offer. So Yusuf, from your perspective, what were the drivers for Cummins to move into the cloud? And also talk to us about your choice of cloud providers. And we know that Cummins' cloud footprint extends to multiple public cloud providers like AWS, Azure, OCI. So give us some context of what drove the need to migrate to cloud and the need for multi-cloud.
Thank you, Abhishek. I think, as companies progress into their strategy in the near future, we also understood what our core business is from an IT perspective, where our core business is as well, what we should be focusing on, and taken a decision together with business to say that data centers is not our core business. We need to move out of our core business, out of the data center space. And, everything going into the cloud now, it makes sense that we start that journey. In terms of how we decided, well, business came and said, look, we need to save money. It's as simple as that, right? What are you going to, let's do a business case and understand what is the saving from having on-prem to going to cloud. That business case was done. And it was an overwhelming decision that we're going to go to the cloud environment, right? The discussion on which cloud vendor do we choose, it was more driven from an application perspective, right? Heavily, invested into OCI, into Oracle, into Azure with the Windows environment, and then AWS coming in. We just thought the process of sticking with the cloud vendors where the expertise is makes sense for us. So for our Oracle applications into OCI, for Microsoft into Azure, and then the rest of it going to AWS. Now the question might come and arise is that, okay, so what about those applications that do not fit into any one of those clouds? What Cummins did at the onset of this project is we chose a vendor that can help us with data center environments throughout the globe, and we chose Equinix. So our network hub globally will be Equinix. And as making that decision, we decided to move all those applications that can't go into the cloud into the Equinix data center until we have a roadmap for them to move into the cloud. So the strategy was sound. The strategy into moving into applications was sound. Yes, there are issues. There are potential issues. There are huge issues which we never thought of. And, we're deliberating and finding solutions for those that we can find in terms of a multi-cloud environment.
Excellent. I mean, that's in line with, conversations we have with other customers as well. Like I mentioned, the need for multi-cloud is really driven by the business and application teams.
Yes.
And it seems like that was the case for Cummins as well.
Yep.
So, Yusuf, can you briefly talk about how Aviatrix has helped you sort of realize this vision of a multi-cloud network and leveraging each CSP for their differentiated capabilities?
Yeah. So, being in control of your own data center is a wonderful thing. Going into the cloud, we found we needed somebody to help us with routing, with taking the traditional routing and helping us putting it into a format that will allow us to route between multiple cloud. And we went and we did an extensive search, and we came to a product called Aviatrix. We engaged with Aviatrix and we said, look, this is our roadmap. This is what we want to do. But behold, we started on our roadmap as well. So we told a small lie to Aviatrix, right? And yeah, we decided to engage. We liked the product. We tested the product in our lab environment to see what would be the outcome of it. And, we chose Aviatrix as a product for helping us that. Now, we originally chose it for the routing function, but we're using now the FireNet object, and we're also using the Transit Gateway product from Aviatrix. So if you see, starting from one, we're finding more value in terms of product sets that we choose, not only from Aviatrix, but other product sets to help us grow into the cloud environment.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was a very wise choice of, choosing Aviatrix. The core offering of the platform is allowing enterprises to build a consistent multi-cloud architecture, right? And what we have seen with customers is longer term, it results in operational efficiencies, and it minimizes the technical debt on trying to support multiple clouds, multiple regions. So
yep.
So Yusuf, kind of transitioning to executing on this strategy. You mentioned obviously moving away from traditional data centers into the cloud. Can you talk about where you guys are in that process of moving away from the traditional data center, and from your view, what are the new skill sets that are needed to now support this global network, most of which is in the cloud?
Yeah, so the short answer is we're still in the process of moving to the cloud. Cummins has 4 global data centers in the world. We've set timelines for transitioning on each of those data centers into the cloud, beginning from June this year until 2024, depending on the size of the data center, where it is, and the applications that are running from there. So from that perspective, we're in the migration process with the first data center closing in the next month or so. And then thereafter, in the next 3 months, closing the second data center. The third and fourth date, the third one is scheduled for end of 2023, and the fourth one is scheduled end of 2024. Now, the question arises is why so aggressive in terms of closing the data centers? Well, this is what business wants, right? And what we're finding is business are becoming more IT savvy because they're reading more documents, right? They're also interacting directly with companies. So they're asking the questions, well, why can't it be done sooner, right? We want to see results sooner. Gone are the days where you're going to get 10 years to move something. So, we've decided that this is what it's going to be. Now, moving with an aggressive timeline, you are going to have a skill shortage, definitely. The skills that we had right now running a traditional network doesn't exist anymore in a cloud environment, right? So what we did is, we looked at the companies that we deal with in a multi-cloud environment, Oracle, all those, including Aviatrix, and we said, look, we don't have these skills. We want you to help us, right? We also looked at our managed service provider and we said, look, we need the skills. Behold, these skills are not readily available in the market, so hence the decision is deal directly with the provider where we can get this help. And that's where we went to professional services and we said, look, we need your help. We're going through this journey. It is your product. Yes, there's going to be integration into a multi-cloud environment, but we need your help. And, we started this journey with Aviatrix being a 6-month. We realized it's not going to happen. We extended it till end of 2023 with the professional services. And then I think it will extend beyond 2023 as well, with taking into consideration the skills that we have. Now, if you talk of the skills, people will ask yourself, why did you not just have in-house skills and get permanent skills? It's a simple thing. You need to have cross-training because the current skills that you have, you need to cross-train them at one stage, they're going to take over. And that's what professional services has done for us as well.
Yeah. Sounds good, Yusuf. So, we help all enterprises that we engage with to really get the most out of the cloud. Every enterprise is looking to leverage the velocity and just the agility that cloud allows them. And professional services here at Aviatrix, the engineers and architects help customers roll out, deploy the cloud network, and then we have other offerings that are more operational focused, which allow enterprises to smoothly operate their cloud network. Have there been any specific operational challenge, sort of day 2 after the initial deployment, where you've leveraged services?
Oh yes, 100%. There's been a lot of operational challenges. Working in a multi-cloud environment, things are not going to work at the onset, right? And that's where we found the benefit of dealing directly with companies like Aviatrix and professional services, right? Having transformational knowledge and using that into a cloud environment that these vendors bring, especially with Aviatrix in other projects, has helped us tremendously shorten the time frame in terms of resolving these operational issues as going forward. And where operational issues can't be resolved, the great thing about transacting directly with it is they have access to this huge knowledge-based network, including engineering in their companies, that can say, hey, look, we've got this problem. We can't sort it out. Help us, right? One example right now we have is with OCI, in terms of routing in that. And, the professional services person went into engineering and said, we've got this problem. They came back and they said, yes, it is a problem, but we have a workaround for you. So what it meant is we didn't stop our migration. We have a workaround. When the final solution comes, we'll implement it, but it didn't stop our cloud migration journey, right, from that perspective. So, and also the skill set that's required now from us in terms of software as a service going to platform as a service. Our traditional environment doesn't have this, and this is where contracting skills have that skills, because, professional services, one day can come with one skill, the next day can come in with another skill to assist where we are with our cloud journey. So that's been the beauty part of having that, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And every enterprise we talk to sort of has similar challenges. One of the things that professional services here at Aviatrix has helped many customers, small ones, big ones across the globe, to achieve is to get that initial footprint into the cloud. So whether
Yeah,
it's greenfield or it's brownfield, very often we'll talk to customers who will describe to us that we already have a big cloud footprint, but the architecture is very inconsistent, right? So there
yeah,
is no well-defined architecture, and so we work with customers like those to first design a consistent architecture that abstracts different CSPs, and then help them actually migrate critical workloads onto that new architecture, right? So this is a pattern that has sort of been very obvious in our conversations with many customers.
yeah. And I must say, including, I mean, you asked me a question on operational environment.
Hmm.
What it has done is basically eliminated the finger pointing exercise, right?
Yeah.
Where we find, no, it's not our problem, it's a routing problem, it's not a cloud problem, it's not an OCI problem. This has eliminated this because now with professional help, they can actually identify where the problem is in a multi-cloud environment and say, no, it's actually your problem, Oracle, fix it up. Or it's
Right.
your problem, AWS, or it's your problem, Azure, fix it up, right? It needs to be sorted out because these are the diagnoses and these are the facts on the table. So, look at the facts and fix up the problem. So this is where, from an operational perspective, we found great benefit in terms of helping us resolve issues where there were issues that we as a traditional network environment would never have even seen it coming, right? So just to expand on that from that perspective.
Yeah, no, that's a great point actually. So, every enterprise we work with, we focus a lot on, the designing the network right, because that has such far-reaching implications. If you get
Yeah,
that wrong, managing it is a nightmare. But
yeah,
really, after that phase, the focus sort of moves to just managing and operating this network, right? And so, both from a product perspective and certainly from a services perspective, Aviatrix has prioritized, day two operations. Um, and the cloud environment, as you mentioned, is different to traditional data centers. Enterprises no longer own the underlying hardware. You're leveraging cloud resources, which are often shared, among multiple customers. And operationally, when things do break, it becomes extremely challenging to quickly figure where the challenge is and who's responsible for it.
yeah, 100%. Starting off from just understanding, going into a cloud environment, you can't have the traditional KPIs and SLAs anymore, right? So what
Mhm.
are those new KPIs and SLAs that you started off with, right? In terms of making sure that everybody sticks to these, right? Focus on them, get those done. And then once you have the KPIs and that, is understanding how to operate this entire environment within those KPIs, within those SLAs. And one example is simple, right? From an operational perspective, you don't have control anymore. Once your information leaves your environment, you have absolutely no control. So, some people ask me from a networking perspective, Yusuf, we have this latency. And I'm like, guys, once it leaves my environment, I have no control. I don't know what happens in the Azure environment. I don't know what happens in the AWS environment. I don't know what happens in the OCI environment, and having that mindset of saying, I'm okay with losing control, but how do we fix that up in an operational environment to make sure that it can be done within the service levels and KPIs is where I have the specialists helping me. So specialists from OCI, specialists from Azure, whatever it is, Aviatrix, whatever it is, and saying, okay, guys, now help me. I'm lost, right? I don't know where this problem is. I need to understand what is happening. I can give you information from where I know. Beyond that, I have nothing, right? So the traditional environment of having operational level agreements and all that is out the window because you have absolutely no control. It doesn't mean anything. So, coming back to what's the role of Cummins in this, I would say you gotta get mediators now, right? Because
Yep.
this mediator needs to talk to different cloud environments and Aviatrix and say, okay, how do we sort this out? Let's get the correct skills and sort this problem out in terms of the KPIs and SLAs we have.
Yeah, I mean, this sounds so familiar. In fact, I was having a conversation with a very large MSP just yesterday, and one of the feedbacks from them was, we have so many tools, so many operational tools that store a lot of relevant information, but it is so challenging for them from just operational team's perspective to consume all that information, right? To
Absolutely.
make sense of that information, to look at underlay, to look at other vendors, and figure out where the actual problem is. So again, this is something that Aviatrix focuses on, and we actually have Aviatrix Copilot, which is part of the platform that
Yes.
gives customers the visibility into their cloud network, right? And
Mm.
the goal with Copilot is solely focused on empowering customers such as yourself to be able to be self-sufficient, to deal with
Yes.
many of these scenarios. Um, Great discussion, Yusuf, on operational issues for sure. In terms of just upskilling, reskilling, what we are seeing is a lot of traditional network and security engineers need to make a skill transition to the cloud,
Yes.
right? What is Cummins doing to empower, to train in-house engineers, and how are you guys leveraging Aviatrix services for training your teams?
Yeah, so this is a very good question. The first thing we do at the beginning of every year is to put one of the KPIs for each of the people is training, right? How many hours of training you're going to do? Getting to the operational environment is like basically, having a A350 or Boeing 777 in the air and trying to fix up things while this thing is flying, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then having the knowledge and ensuring that people go on training means they're not monitoring that Boeing or that Airbus flying in the air, right? So, how do we manage this, right? And this is where professional services came in, right? And together with our engineers, whatever was done on the project or whatever operational issue is going on, there's always this cross skilling that's happening, right? Where our engineers now are understanding how to fix up stuff, how to resolve issues, what are the potential questions or what are the relevant questions to ask in a multi-cloud environment to our other cloud vendors in terms of saying, okay, this is the question I need to ask when I have this issue going on, right? And also from an Aviatrix perspective, I mean, we were fortunate where we got free training from Aviatrix on the ACE.
Mm-hmm.
And what ACE has done is allowed our people to be the level 1 and level 2 support environment. And then if there's issues, go to Aviatrix from a level 3 perspective and say, look, we can't sort this out, help is sorting. And while sorting, resolving those issues, we're finding that this cross-skilling and multi-skilling our engineers has helped us keep this Boeing or Airbus flying in the air while we're trying to get upskilled, and also resolve issues. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it absolutely does. I mean, ACE, for example, Aviatrix recognized the need for training infrastructure engineers very, very early. And we actually pioneered sort of this multi-cloud network training program, which is called ACE,
Yeah.
Aviatrix Certified Engineer. And over time, what we've managed to do is we've built different flavors of ACE. So now, not only can you get trained on cloud networking and security, but we've added other flavors where you can get your teams trained on operations. You can do a focused boot camp on designing cloud networks, and most importantly, we also have a flavor which focuses on infrastructure as code. So this is one key skill that I see is missing for a lot of traditional engineers, and is absolutely required to successfully migrate to the cloud. A lot of application teams that we speak of, they are very code focused, very DevOps skilled, and for them the transition in terms of provisioning applications, say from on-prem to the cloud, hasn't changed much, but it is a huge change for infrastructure engineers, right, who may
Yeah,
not have been exposed to those frameworks on-prem, but in the cloud it becomes a prerequisite. And that's why, like I said, we have the ACE infrastructure as code training, and from a services perspective, these are the kind of conversations we have day in and day out. And what we tend to work with customers is to help them actually automate a lot of the cloud network, beginning right from the deployment, right? And in that process, along the way, build skills, DevOps, GitOps. We've worked with
yes, yeah,
organizations to leverage, GitOps, because once you transition to managing your network as code, adopting other practices, which, for example, are basic for software teams, things like version control,
yes, yeah,
and just leveraging Git to manage and approve and change management of your cloud network. So a lot of engagements for Aviatrix services is focused on helping customers build out their automation and then make them self-sufficient over a long period of time to manage that on their own.
100%, 100%.
Um, One of the other topics I wanted to cover, Yusuf, was so what we also witness talking to different enterprises is this challenge of organizing teams in this new world, right? So
Yeah,
teams were aligned by certain function in the
yes,
on-prem world, but with the transition to cloud, organizations need to evolve as well. So we typically will talk to a dedicated cloud team, a on-prem networking team, a security team, talk about how Cummins has dealt with these challenges and what have they done to potentially bring these organizational silos together.
yeah. So we still in the traditional organizational structure where we have different cloud team, a different network team, a different security team, and that. But what I found from a Cummins perspective, with having one aim of moving the data center into the cloud, and that coming from business. And when I mean business, I'm talking of the executive leadership team of Cummins, giving us a date by when they want to do it. We found a lot of cohesiveness within Cummins in terms of making sure we move to that date, because you don't want to be left out in saying, well, it's a networking team issue that we can't move to the cloud, right? So it's given us that cohesiveness in terms of saying, okay, we need to work together to make this work. But again, the challenges of a blurred accountability of moving into the cloud. There's a lot of networking in the cloud side that needs to be ascertained, that needs to be established, that needs to be worked on. Networking needs to do their stuff from their stuff. Security is one of the blurred accountabilities as well. From a Palo Alto, from that perspective, who does what happens, how do we get this together? So from a Cummins perspective, what we've done is we've brought everybody together into one meeting where we discuss issues, we discuss the project, we discuss whose accountability is it going to be. Is it 100% bulletproof? No, it's not. I mean, we just have issues upon issues every week, and we try and think, well, why wasn't this brought up last week, right? Do we have the right stakeholders? No, we don't. In every meeting, how do we manage that? We just go about every week in managing it. And what we've done is, in certain instances, we're saying we're just going with this. Whatever issues we have, we'll manage it as we migrate, but we're moving on. right? And from that perspective, right? So the across multi teams in terms of managing this is a huge problem. Now I can tell you, those that are on this call that are networking, when a call is locked, the first thing that comes, well, it's a networking issue.
Yeah.
Yes, okay, let's see what happens from a networking perspective. Get everybody involved and say, how do we fix this up, right? Now, taking into account that these are applications migrations, we found in a lot of instances, the application needs to be redesigned. So let me give an example. From an OCI perspective, there was an application that dealt with our warehouse management. The latency that came back was 400 milliseconds. Obviously, nobody could work with it. From a networking cloud perspective, security, we looked at every instance in terms of where we could find a problem. The actual problem was that we had to run the applications on multi-stream. Now, how did we find it out? It was Oracle coming back and say, let's try this and see what happens, right? We went from 400 milliseconds to 75 milliseconds for running the application. So, do you look at this problem across multiple teams from an IT perspective? The answer is absolutely not. So how did we fix that up? What we've done is we've embedded ourselves into every application migration that needs to go into the cloud. Look at that, run a test platform in terms of what it's going to be like, and implement those learnings that we have in all the other environments into the new migrations going across. Again, is it bulletproof? No. Are there issues? There are humongous issues, right? But yeah, at least now we've got the relevant role players into one meeting in discussing what we need to do in terms of going ahead.
Yeah, that's actually a great example of just working with different teams, getting them together, and each team understanding how they need to transform to be successful in the cloud.
100%.
That was a good example, Yusuf. So I think we'll transition to maybe taking some questions. But before we do that, one last question for you, Yusuf. You've now gone through this journey. Obviously, it's not complete. It will go on. You've experienced the value that Aviatrix services, professional services, has brought to Cummins. In general, what would you share with your peers? When should you engage services? How best to engage them? Get the most out of them?
Yeah, my take to my peers is, get everybody. I think understanding what product set you need upfront to help you in the migration. We done it during the flying of the Airbus of the Boeing. Understand that mindset. You're not going to get everything, I guarantee you, right? But that which get the professional services of those applications that you have involved at the onset. You will save a lot of time. Not only the time, but you'll also save in understanding which applications you're going to use at which environment in the cloud, or in which level of the cloud you're going to use it, right? So that to me was key. The second thing, what I've learned is the support process. Have that defined upfront. Who is going to be involved? What is the recce or RACI that you need to be involved? In terms of the support process for the cloud environment, and let professional services in each of these applications be involved in your support process. If you don't do that, you are going to sit with a problem where you don't know what to resolve, when to resolve. By having professional services in, and this is what we did. We said, professional services, you are going to be involved in our operational environment. We are going to help you with the transition, with the institutional knowledge, with our application knowledge. We're going to give you access to all this. But when there's a problem, you are going to be at the onset of this problem to help us resolve this, right? So coming to your question, Abhishek, is when is right at the engagement of the cloud migration. Get them involved. Yes, it is sometimes expensive, but it's worth every effort of it in terms of getting it involved.
Excellent, Yusuf. Thanks for actually sharing those thoughts, sharing your experience in this cloud journey. I think let's take some questions from the audience. And I see one, Yusuf, that's actually for you. The question is, you mentioned leveraging Equinix for Cummins infrastructure. does Equinix offer protection against cyber attacks? What are the security safeguards that Equinix offers?
Yeah, so this is a great question. Is that Equinix is what we're using Equinix is just a hub. Building the applications or building the security around it is still a Cummins responsibility. So what we've done with cybersecurity in our team is understanding, okay, so what type of security we need at different levels of the cloud environment. And one of that security aspects has been at the Equinix environment. Right. So what we've done is from Cummins Equinix is one cloud, one network. As soon as we leave Equinix, what is that protection we need? And we build it from from that environment right through into cloud from that cloud perspective. So, we've said these are the rules that we're going to have. This is the technology we're going to put into Equinix. Sometimes I ask the question, have we over securitized this environment? The answer sometimes is yes. Is it necessary? Absolutely, because we don't know what we're getting into when we get into the cloud environment, right? Once we mature, once we get into that environment, we might come back and say, okay, let's review this entire thing, right? But yeah, we've built security into every step of the way going into the cloud environment.
Yeah, that makes sense, Yusuf. And what I'll add there from an Aviatrix perspective is that we're actually extending the product, the platform into Equinix. We are actually launching Aviatrix on the Equinix marketplace
Yes,
this quarter, which will allow customers to extend the Aviatrix footprint into Equinix.
yeah,
And from a just an product innovation perspective, we're focused on security as well, right? I mean, the network is positioned uh, to provide network security. It has all the data, all the traffic flowing through the network. So there's a lot of value we can offer in terms of security, right? Whether our current offerings, around inserting cloud firewalls, egress sort of FQD and filtering capabilities,
100%.
right? We have threat IQ and threat guard, which allows customers to flag and block, dynamically block, rogue IPs. We have compliance offering as well, and obviously, just from a networking perspective, we offer customers end-to-end
Yes.
high throughput encryption, which is critical for many enterprises like yourself.
We're looking at that right now.
Mhm.
The question is, will we go into the near future with something like that? The answer is definitely not. It's new in the Equinix environment in terms of what they're offering on virtual machines and so forth.
Mhm.
Are we ready to give up I wouldn't say our hardcore environments in terms of where we control? The answer is no. So, but we are looking at it and seeing how we can bring all this together, right? With
Right.
what we want to keep in-house and still manage to what Equinix or Aviatrix has in terms of the security environment. Now, yes, there's a plethora of security tools out there that will help us. I mean, Aviatrix is bringing it. Paolo is bringing it. Cisco is bringing it. We yet to evaluate what of those we're going to keep and what of those we're not going to keep. And each of these environments have their niches, right? What do we put in which box, and how do we build this up in terms of the tunnel that we want to provide into the environment? So Equinix have told us about this. We are in discussions with them. Where it comes in, we're not yet sure.
Okay. Thanks for that response, Yusuf. Let me jump over to the next question. I think that's for me. I can respond to that. So the question is, does Aviatrix offer anything equivalent to AWS managed services, or AMS as they're called, I believe? Yes, we do. So Aviatrix actually has a service offering which we call managed service as well. Note that it's not a hosted solution, so all the Aviatrix infrastructure still runs in customer accounts, customer subscriptions. But what we are offering is a 24/7 coverage model where Aviatrix engineers and architects help you design, automate and manage the network, right? So Aviatrix engineers take on the active role of making changes, config changes, making sure the network runs smoothly, monitoring, alert-based monitoring for those networks. So we do have a managed services offering. If any of you are interested in talking more about that, do let us know. Reach out to us at info@aviatrix.com.
Cool. Yeah, I see there's one more question which says, is Cummins only using Equinix? Answer is yes. We haven't looked at other providers. What we've done is we've seen where we currently are and mapped that to which of the provider is going to, give us the best leverage in terms of where we want our data centers to be. So we've chosen Equinix, and they the provider we'll use for our networking perspective.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Yusuf. I'll take one last question before we wrap up. I can answer this as well. Does Aviatrix deliver services directly, or does it also work with partners? So Aviatrix does work with partners. We have a partner qualification process, and right now we're engaged with partners globally. There are large SIs that we're working with who are interested in not only reselling the Aviatrix platform, but delivering Aviatrix services on our behalf. So we're looking to qualify additional partners. If you are a partner on this call and want to be part of that process, again, like I said, reach out to us at info@aviatrix.com.
Yeah. So just to expand on that, Abhishek, is what we're finding also is that now that we're talking to the multi-cloud vendors, they also looking at partnering with Aviatrix. Not that they don't know Aviatrix, because they're finding that customers like Cummins, we're not going to move away from this product. So they also now talking about using Aviatrix in their lab environment to see if there's any potential issues that come up in that. And it's something we've asked them to do so that when an issue occurs, we know exactly who to talk to and what happens from an Aviatrix perspective as well, understanding how this integrates into OCI, into their own network when we come into their network. So just to expand on what you've mentioned.
Sounds good, Yusuf. So I think those are all the questions we had. Is there anything else? No, that looks good. Thanks for sharing your experience today, Yusuf, and thanks to the audience for joining us. A quick plug right at the end, Cloud Pragmatist, that's this webinar series. The URL's right there. You can look at past webinars and obviously future ones. Advanced Cloud Services, if you're interested in engaging Aviatrix services, the URL's on the left bottom. You can find out what the different service offerings are. We're actually hosting a deep dive on Aviatrix services on June 7th, which is going to be an Aviatrix Tech Talk. We'll follow up with more information via email, but you can register to learn more about Aviatrix services. And last but not the least, ACE certification. If you're interested in getting multi-cloud network certified, please sign up for the ACE program. The URL is right there at the bottom where you can actually register for upcoming sessions. All right. I think with that, we're done for today. Thanks to everyone for joining, and until next time. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah. Cheers. Bye.
Bye-bye.